The following is a Spirit Street production.
Whoo, boy, that was a good trip yesterday, giving away my brother's scholarship. I am back today. Love the Big 12 insiders. Things happen. You know, I was gone one day and boom, all of a sudden the NCAA, they come to an agreement to settle this crazy case. Man, a lot is going on. We're going to break that down. It's Ask Big B Day. Bring all your questions, people. Bring the questions. We'll have some fun today with it. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. This is Brien Hanley along with Tim Fitzgerald. Fitz, how is it going today, my man?
I spent my day yesterday hanging out with Ryan Gilbert talking about sports betting. Not bad.
Nice.
Not bad. And only after the show do I realize one of my slides I used was screwed up.
Oh.
I carefully checked each and every one of them. I think there's always a gremlin trying to change a slide somewhere.
I understand. Yeah, the show yesterday was very good. Thank you guys for stepping in while I was away. I had fun, so that was a good thing, giving away my brother's scholarship. But let's get to it. So the landmark case, you know, this House versus the NCAA, it's been settled upon, or the settlement is coming, should we say. Everybody's started to agree. It's not something that's going to happen next week. It's, going to take several months before this happens. I suspect it'll happen after the football season is over. I don't think anything's going to happen in the next couple of months. Not to mention, I don't think that they're going to want to have this big settlement, Fitz, that this news come out right in the middle of football season.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do that. I think they'll wait till it's over. You might say, well, what about basketball season? Hey, you got to remember who's driving the ship with all of this. So I think it'll happen probably after football season with all of this. But let's just get into this. And we talked a little bit about this before we came on air. It's like, okay, most of this money is back pay,
Right.
That's going out to former athletes and all athletes, just to make everybody aware. It's not just football players or basketball players. This is going to people that were in rowing, somebody that the cross country runner, the baseball player, the basketball player, whatever sport, that's who is getting paid. Moving forward, okay, doesn't this mean, Fitz, that schools, yes, they're going to be paying some of these players in addition to NIL?
Yeah. I mean, this is a whole nother layer here. This doesn't impact NIL.
Right.
Part of the settlement is not being able to have NIL, but now that they have it, they're not changing that anyway. This doesn't replace NIL. This is another source of income for student athletes on top of NIL. And with this, I would think the Autonomous Five, or most of the members of those conferences, because the Pac-12, for purposes of this lawsuit, was together when the damages were taken. So they're part of this also going forward. And I would think at some point, the A5 is going to want to, get some of these issues under control and maybe rein in NIL. So it's about NIL.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I'll say it. I'm not sure SEC schools will want to do that.
No.
And Big Ten, because they can outbid people for players now.
Correct.
And with that big media contracts coming,
but
it has to be reined in. NIL is not NIL. It's straight up buying players.
Absolutely. 100%. And we shouldn't even act or pretend like it's not. I mean, that's exactly what it is. In the spirit of buying players, Fitz, let's ask this crazy question. So just for conversation's sake, let's just say that each school has a $10 million allotment that they're paying out to these players. And let's just say your allotment, again, for conversation's sake, let's just say it's $25,000. Well, what's to say the school per se, school A, that says, you know what, we're not going to give you this $25,000, but we are going to make sure that your NIL in number doubles the amount of money that we were going to give you. What schools are going to keep schools from being able to do that. If they do something like that, Fitz, I'm going to guess a contract of some sort is going to have to be signed, because we just saw it in this Jaden Rashada case. Fell through. The guy was promised money, didn't come through. He signed his national letter of intent, but he doesn't sign the contract to get the NIL money, so I don't think he even has a leg to stand on. If I'm a kid and their parents, there's no way in the world that I'm going to sign away, again, conversation piece, $25,000 without assurances that I'm going to get that someplace else. And now we're talking about contracts, which, remember, NIL, you're not supposed to be pay for play.
Right.
How is all that going to work?
Well, I have no idea, man. I really don't. They have to address NIL.
Yeah.
They have to address and have some commonality in NIL contracts. I would think, but then again, NIL is considered outside money away from the university.
Right.
How the NCAA can oversee that. But I think at some point there's going to have to be a Player Protection Act. It sounds like Congress is getting interested because enough fans are beginning to figure out their college sports are going to be royally screwed up, and maybe their school is going to have a broke athletic department that won't be able to do much in the future. So they're going to address that, but they have to get NIL under control. I would like to see some kind of NIL contract, a blanket one that protects the players, and then they can't actually receive an offer until they're on campus.
Correct.
Got to get this out of the recruiting process. They have to. It is absolutely destroying college athletics.
Yep, absolutely. I'm on that board. I fought it as long as I could, Fitz. I fought it and fought it and fought it. And I'm like, you know what? It's killing it because there's no less legislation to it. It's not that NIL is bad. It's that there's no rules. And anything with no rules is going to be chaos. And usually I'm for chaos when it comes to the college football playoff. But we're talking about getting in the way of actual just college athletics in general. Yeah, I'm not for chaos. And that's what this has become. It's just an absolute nightmare. Here's another thing that I thought. I'm interested to get your thoughts about this. I know we've talked about contracts and schools paying players and stuff like that. And everybody, again, that's in the chat and anybody, please weigh in because we want to get your answers and your questions answered. What if these kids, if the schools are actually paying players, they're signing these contracts, shouldn't the contracts be a certain length of time?
Yeah.
That would eliminate some of this transfer portal stuff immediately. Like, look, we're going to give you this money, but you got to be here 3 years. You got to be here 2 years. There is no, okay, we're just going to give it to you for 1 year. I would think schools would have control of that. And again, I would think the schools would have to come together and say, you know what, guys? Yes, this transfer thing is out of control. If you want to transfer, we'll let you do it, but we're not going to give you a penny.
Great.
I just think that, and with this new school that you go to, you'll have to sign a contract. And if you leave, you can go and we'll let you play right away, but you get not $1 in any money that you've received. You owe it back. I think that kind of eliminates some of that stuff. And again, if we're talking about contracts with employees, that still holds true. Just like a coach, coaches can leave and break their contracts, but they have buyout clauses.
Right.
I think this could work the same way.
I would agree. Let's be clear. Brien and I support the NIL.
Absolutely.
If it's for name, image, and likeness.
That's right.
I remember writing a column when I was working at the paper in Salina, Kansas, late 80s, early 90s. I think it was an SMU athlete was trying to sell T-shirts with their image, and the NCAA shut them down for T-shirts because they couldn't profit from their own image.
Right.
That's when I knew the system was really broken. And of course, Jeremy Bloom, says his name, the skier that played football at Colorado. My memory's still bad nowadays, but yeah, I mean, the NCAA told him he couldn't earn from his skiing because he was a college football player. And he said, well, the hell with football then. I mean, I'm all for being able to make money that you earn because you're doing ads. You have a business, a career, a second job. You couldn't even have a job. And maybe you have time to be a doorman or something. I don't know. The NCAA wouldn't let you. Nope. So I'm all in favor of that. It's just this straight up payment. Hey, thanks for being here. Here's $150,000 salary.
Right.
I don't know, man. That just doesn't seem like should fit the amateur model. Maybe the amateur model is going to die, but we'll see what Congress comes up with. And I don't know, maybe the fans will have to bribe them to make them do anything because money only seems to motivate them.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. The thing that I always find funny, I remember way back when Greg Anthony played for UNLV, had that T-shirt business. I mean, me growing up, the UNLV, the Running Rebels, I mean, that was a real thing. Had that T-shirt business, and they told him that he could not do it. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Why would you get in the way of him making money off of himself and his buddies? Why are you in the way of that? And it's just, nope, wouldn't let you do it. And I'm like, wow. And that was before I even went to college and could understand a little bit about the basics. So that was weird. It was just weird how all that stuff works out, Fitz.
Indentured servitude.
Yep. Yeah. Now that you can make some money and do that, if it's truly for NIL, then let it be for that. But it's just gotten away from that. And we knew that it would.
Absolutely.
And we knew, and I know we've talked about it. The NCAA just said, here, have at it, figure it out. And there are no rules. And here we are with no rules. And even when they tried to come back in, nope, the courts just said, absolutely not. You've let this go too far. We're not going to let you, regulate any of this stuff. And now it is just a catastrophe.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. I'll be interested to see what that settlement is.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that someone in the journalism realm, one of the big time journalists, will get a hold of it, and not just kind of some leaked details from one side or the other, but actually get a hold of the signed settlement to see how impactful it is. It must be seen as survivable for most A5 institutions.
Correct.
Because they all signed off on it.
Right. They wouldn't have done it.
Exactly. If this was going to lead to the destruction of your athletics department, they wouldn't have done the settlement. They would have just taken their chances in court. If the number was 3 times that, well, the result's the same. So, I think this must be survivable for most schools, and they probably, as a group, have a plan, and we'll see what that plan is for your individual institutions.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but this is where we are, unfortunately. I want to take a break here and maybe talk on the other side and change the subject. This is just depressing. I want to talk about something else, talk about some football, maybe some Big 12 basketball markets. And I think that's what we will talk about, maybe Big 12 getting in this TV deal, because it for sure, well, I shouldn't say for sure, but it is really big time leaning that the NBA is going to be gone off of TNT and going to NBC. And that literally opens up a segue for the Big 12 to just slide right in there and get them a TV deal that would be very, very lucrative. So we'll take a quick break here. We'll come back on the other side, talk about that once we have a word from our sponsors here with Synergy Financial Partners.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald. So, Fitz, here is it's not really a question, it's a statement. Hoping TNT picks up the Big 12 in football and basketball. Now, I haven't heard the football thing before, but is that a possibility? I don't know if it is with the partners that they currently have, but is it a possibility?
Well, you might have missed it yesterday, or maybe it was the day before. TNT has sub-licensed some of the playoff games from ESPN in football.
Okay.
So, they're going to start doing it this season. They'll get 2 of those first-round games. And keep in mind, folks, there used to be 3 playoff games, and now there's 11.
Correct.
And there's 4 in the first round and 4 in the quarterfinals because of those 4 buys. And for the length of this contract, TNT will have, which is 5 years, 2 of those first-round games. And then in a couple years, for the final 3 years of the contract, they'll pick up 2 quarterfinal games also. So they have 4 of the 11 games in the final 3 years of the contract. So this indicates to me TNT is showing interest in entering the college space at, kind of being a player. And I did one of my daily delivery videos on what could be working here. We know Brett Yormark is an NBA guy. He worked with TNT an awful lot. He knows those people. And I think when he talks about breaking out a basketball contract, he's not talking about it in a general sense. He's talking about TNT and their other entities carrying Big 12 basketball. But I also hypothesized, is it possible that in the future, the next round of full negotiations, that Fox will pretty much have the Big 10, ESPN will have the SEC, and TNT becomes the Big 12 network? That's possible. It's very interesting because TNT wants sports product, and they just lost their biggest product they have. What they've done with the NBA has been incredible.
Yes.
Chuck and that whole studio gang are amazing, and that's about to end.
Yeah. I mean, if the Big 12 could latch on to TNT, the thing that for me as a Big 12 supporter and love of this conference, it would be done the right way. We've seen just what you said, what they did for decades with the NBA, and it is done extremely well. Whether you like Charles Barkley or Shaq or Kenny Smith or Ernie, first of all, I'm not sure how you can't like those guys.
Exactly.
But they are very good at what they do and how they put a show together. And those producers and everything that goes into making that show, whether it's pregame, halftime, postgame, all of it is done extremely well. And if they do, and I mean this wholeheartedly, if they do a Big 12, whether it's basketball or football, half as good as what they do the NBA, it will be done outstanding. So, yeah, I don't think that I did not know that they were trying to get into the college football space, but now that you have mentioned that and that's been brought up, it does make sense. And the Big 12 would be smart to just latch on to that and say, yeah, let's move forward. Let's get this thing done.
I think the hallmark of their show, and I'll be honest, I'm not an NBA guy. I don't watch it much, but I do catch the show on occasion because it's so entertaining.
Yes.
And they have mastered the formula of absolutely great information mixed with an amount of humor that'll just make you rock. I mean, it's a funny show, but they don't get lost in that to the point where they're not actually talking about substance.
Correct.
They've done a great job with balancing. And if they can bring that, I think just the general college viewers would watch a Big 12 show if they find the right pieces to kind of replicate that. I'm not sure. It's a pretty magical combination.
It is.
But Ernie's staying with Turner. So with TNT, and it's Warner Brothers now, it's so confusing. But he's staying there. He's under contract. The other guys were contracted for the show specifically. So we'll see what happens. But I would take Ernie and some other guys doing Big 12 stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like I said, it'll be done first rate because those guys are very good. The thing about also with TNT that it's entertainment. Like, and look, I'm not, whether you are or not a big Stephen A. Smith fan, he brought up a great point yesterday or a couple days ago talking about when, if the NBA leaves TNT, is that TNT is an entertainment station. Right. Like when NBA is not on, they have dramas on their station. And I think that would be good. The Big 12, look, do something different. It's going to be good. That's why I think TNT, because the lead ups are going to be so good because the shows that they already have on, then you throw a sports channel on, then something after that. I think it's a great mix to go over to TNT, whether it's football or basketball. I also believe, Fitz, that's why it does such a good job, because it's an entertainment station and not just a sports station. And I'm not saying either one is good or bad. I just believe when you have that certain mix that, people that go there to watch entertainment and to be entertained, they like to have some sports from time to time. Then when the sports is over, let's go back to this. I think that would be perfect for the Big 12. Look, other stations, Fox, ESPN, CBS, blah, 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 whatever. Go and get your own niche. And I think the Big 12 can do that if they want to do that. I think it would be great for the conference to just dive into that.
Yeah, I agreed. Keep this in mind. There's 3 entities doing this new Super Sports Channels, the streaming service that they announced the name of, and I can't remember it. They've come up with a little cute name, and I forgot it already. But it's ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers which is now TNT and all them.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be part of that streaming platform. They would
Right.
have access to the same streaming platform that I think Fox and ESPN are going to use for their spillover games. That's pretty cool.
Yes, it is.
And on top of that, if you watch the NCAA tournament, we're not just talking TNT. We're talking TBS and maybe True TV.
Correct.
To be able to have plenty of channels available for your inventory. I think it's a real possibility, Brien, and I can guarantee you it's something Brett Yormark is exploring. Don't have any inside knowledge, but I do know who he knows on this subject, and I guarantee you he wants them in the next round of negotiation. Competition drives up price. And we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's just important for the Big 12 to have their own network. I really do. One that they can call their own. I'm not, whether you want to say it's their network or you're teaming up with whatever the case may be. I think it's important when you think, oh, you know what? Big 12, where I go to TNT. That's where I find all my Big 12 stuff. I think that would be important. That would set it apart from a lot of different places. And who knows, you may even get some leftover, because there's plenty of people out there that are strictly NBA people.
Right.
That, they have just watched NBA. But now that they've watched it on TNT for all those years, they may say, you know what? This college, it's not so bad after all. And I enjoy the product that's being put out there. So I think that's important. Dipping into a little bit more of the on-field type of stuff. I know you guys talked about odds yesterday. And by the way, I love the show. It was great. I'm thinking, I saw one of your projections and you were talking about some of the separation from some of the teams as far as the odds.
Yeah.
I saw one that was crazy. At the very bottom of the list, BYU was plus 120,000. I was like, what is going on? Dude, does nobody think BYU can compete at all?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was 12. What was it? It was 5 digits.
Well, it was 10,000. And then the last one for them was plus 120,000.
That might've been user error.
Okay.
Or actually my error. But yeah, we talked about those 5-digit odds, which are extremely long odds.
Yes.
And how many are in each of the A4 conferences for next season, and how the lowest percentage of those odds come from the Big 12.
Correct.
Proving really that Vegas understands the Big 12 is the most densely packed in the middle competitive league. Both, when you look at both the ACC and Big 10, they're going to be at 18 schools this upcoming football season. 8 of their members have 5-digit odds, really long odds to win the conference. That's a lot of easy wins.
A lot of them.
A lot.
Yes.
That means half, because you don't play yourself if you're one of the other 10. So that means there's 9 competitive teams more than the 8 that are the really deep ones. So about half of your conference schedule are, I don't want to say give me's, but you're going to probably win those games unless you screw up.
Right.
That's a difference.
That's a huge difference. And it comes back to what me and a lot of people others say about those conferences. Let's call it the SEC, the Big 10, the ACC. They're so top heavy.
Yep.
They're so top heavy. And when they just claim that from top to bottom, it's the best conference, I'm like, hold on a second. Like, I'll grant you that at the top of the food chain, yes. Okay. You may be better than everybody else. But once you get past 4, don't tell me that everybody else down is better than every other conference. It's just not. It's not the case, especially in the Big 10 where they try to claim that. I'm like, just pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. You are not better than everybody else.
Yeah, if you miss that, folks, the Big 10 has 4 schools at plus, 150 to like 550, which, are more narrow odds of winning the title because they're more likely to. So you're not going to get the payout. And then their 5th one jumps to USC at plus 2,300.
Right.
So it's an enormous gap.
Yeah.
The SEC has 5 of their 16 in that 5-digit category, meaning they're less competitive. I always point this out. A lot of people made a big deal about a couple years ago when K-State played Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and Alabama won that game fairly easily. K-State had won 5 straight against SEC teams until that game.
Right.
They don't talk about those 5.
Nope.
They just talk about, oh, yeah, Alabama. Oh, yeah, Georgia. Dude, that's not your whole conference, and that's our point. You do have elite schools. We get that. The Big 12 currently doesn't have anyone to match that level. I understand that, but that doesn't mean your whole conference is better. The Big 12 is a competitive conference from top to bottom, and eventually teams will start pulling away. And I think what be the ramification of that, Brien, instead of everyone else saying, boy, look at those guys, they're good. Oh, the Big 12 is great. The Big 12 is so competitive now, everyone else will rise with those boats. The tide
Absolutely.
will rise everyone in the Big 12. And I think it's just going to get better and better.
Yep. It's just what we've talked about, and we'll continue to talk about it. The Big 12, the way that it is in football, the strength is in numbers. And as many really good teams that you can have, I'm not saying they're going to be superior at the top of the food chain like Ohio State or Michigan or Alabama and Georgia. I'm not saying that. But if you have a lot of really good Penn States out there in this conference, which the Big 12 has, let's just be honest, it has that. If you can get 6 or 7 of those and the rotates as far as who wins the conference every year, I like the conference. I like it better that way. You don't have to be a blue blood to be able to compete at the top level. So
yep, I agree.
Let me
pop one up here because Ken, whoops, I got the wrong one. It just moved on me. Our friend K-Net has a very interesting point. You know, they announced the Fox Friday schedule, and that's something we haven't discussed. It's Fox Friday is going to be a big deal. They're muscling their way into that. They're not just showing games. They want this to become a thing. And now we've learned that they're going to do it through basketball. So Fox Channel, the network, is going to have college sports programming from the start of football to the end of basketball season, which is pretty significant. Fox Friday's football schedule was announced. K-Ned correctly points out that while it starts in the 3rd week of the season with Kansas State and Arizona in Manhattan, they'll kick that whole thing off. And it ends for the regular season with Utah at UCF. The other 9 games in the middle are all Big Ten games. So we see exactly why with that, you know, Fox is giving a little love to the Big 12, but it also points out why the Big 12, Brien, really needs its own thing. Hopefully it's TNT and those other channels.
Yes.
But another weird thing about that contract, I just find it very strange. There's 11 regular season games. The last one in the announced series is the Mountain West Championship. Out of those 11 regular season games, including both the Big 12 games, 8 of them involve former Pac-12 institutions. So that was really weird. So you got some interesting first-time matchups all through that schedule. And I think that'll be entertaining, but I just thought it was interesting that Fox said, hey, you guys are used to playing at weird times. We're going to do that to you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let me ask you this before we take the last break here. Do you like Friday football for college? Because personally, I hate it.
No, I don't. But I also appreciate the Big 12's got to do what the Big 12's got to do.
Sure.
Those will probably be the only 2 times this season they're on the big Fox network. Maybe they'll sneak one in on another day on a Saturday. But if you can get on the biggest networks, because this, again, is going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, it will.
They'll thump their chests and say, look at our TV ratings compared to yours. And I'll say, look at the platforms you're getting.
Correct.
The viewership on ESPN is greater than any other cable outlet. And the viewership on the network platforms of Fox and ABC and NBC and CBS are way better than ESPN.
Right.
And if you guys are going to be populating those channels, you're going to get better ratings. Doesn't matter. You can throw Indiana and Minnesota on that game and it'll pull decent numbers. And it's just going to be what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take our last break here from Synergy Financial. We'll be right back to end the show for today.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right, welcome back to the show here. Fitz, I want to bring up this question to you. and somebody posed is, what about a Big 12 conference network channel like the big boys have? What do we think about that per se?
I think those days have passed. That's an old model that once streaming hit, the conversation wasn't about that. In fact, I think ESPN wants to shut down the ACC channel because viewership's bad.
Correct.
I guess there'd be a possibility ESPN, if the ACC comes apart, would say, okay, we're just going to flip it to the Big 12 channel. But I don't know. If I'm ESPN, I just change that channel to be another ESPN platform for general programming, because they need it. They've got so many packages now. They've got so much inventory in the college space. They could use another channel because, ESPN News even gets a game once in a while because of this.
Yeah, it does.
So I think I would just convert it to a general channel. The Big 12 resisted that. And I think they were thinking in the right direction, that all of this is going to end up in the streaming space, and those channels being, you're literally paying for that. Everyone in cable is paying for that. And that's why the whole cable way of doing business is going away. I mean, you've got people that don't want politics that have pay for the news channels. You got people who hate sports who pay for all the sports channels. And that model is now dying, and it should. So more a la carte, you can decide what you want to subscribe to. And I think that those days are dead, just as the days, as noticed in this last round of conversations about realignment, there wasn't much talk about markets.
No,
because the only purpose of the markets discussion, and ESPN did a masterful job of making you think it was really important for them, for you, but it was really for ESPN, because that means they could go in by adding Rutgers to the Big Ten. They could go into New Jersey and New York and make sure people are all paying for, the Big Ten network, or I guess it was Fox, and, those things, just forcing people to get the cable package. It's now on your cable, you got to take it. That's dead. And now it's not about markets. It's about fan engagement. And the size of your fan base has a big part of that. And also about rivalries. They love the rivalries. And that's why when people say, oh, you already have that market. No, you want the rivalry. Yeah. The Big 12 might've had the Utah market and part of it with, BYU. Now they got the holy war with Utah every year. That will be a huge viewership game for the conference. So it's about rivalries, really. And I think if the Big 12 can prop up, it makes Pitt really tangible with West Virginia. If the ACC comes apart, and maybe they bring in 2 schools from North Carolina if they can, or, they might try to maintain one of those rivalries. So I just think the conversation has shifted, and it will continue to shift as the entire television, broadcasting, streaming entities out there evolve even more.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think we're just at the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on which way you look at it. But things are changing. Let's hope that they start changing for the better for everybody. So I appreciate everybody coming in. Look, we're close, Fitz. We are creeping to that ever 1,000 subscriber mark. We are getting there. Please. Make sure, if you have not subscribed, please do. Please tell your buddy, tell your buddy's buddy, and your buddy's buddy's buddy. Please come and subscribe at the Big 12 Insiders over on YouTube, 24/7 Sports. Make sure you guys do that. We are getting very close. We appreciate everybody. Everybody out there. We'll be back next week. Make sure that you have a great Memorial Day weekend this weekend, whatever you're doing. Everybody be safe. Until then, we'll see you guys next week.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.